They are the only surviving disciless conjoined twins and have lived their entire lives in a secluded, tight-knit society, shielded from other observers. Abby and Brittany Hensel were conjoined twins born in 1990, having a single body. Millions watched them on television for decades. They became teachers after appearing on Oprah and their own reality show. They were automobile drivers. Their lives were typical. Then the internet took off in 2024. Photos from a secret wedding came to light. Something more significant was suggested by an enigmatic TikTok. All of a sudden, everyone had the same query. What actually became to the twins? The reality is more shocking than anyone could have predicted. On March 7, 1990, Abby and Brittany Hensel were born in Carver County, Minnesota. However, this was no typical birth. The birthing room fell silent at 12:17 a.m. Dalek Paraphagus twins, with two heads sharing a single body, were the neonates. Their combined weight was 11.5 lb. Their parents were taken aback. Nobody had anticipated this. Only one birth out of every 200,000 is affected by this uncommon disease. Physicians from all around the nation hurried to visit them. They were curious as to how this might have happened. 2 days later, a significant operation was carried out by surgeons. Between their necks, a tiny third arm was developing. It needed to be taken out. The girls survived the 6 arduous hours of surgery. It marked the beginning of what would turn out to be a remarkable life. Even the most intelligent doctors were astounded by the way their bodies functioned. Brittany was in charge of the left side, while Abby was in charge of the right. was in charge of the right. Their organs still needed to work together, even though each had her own heart and lungs. They forced blood through the same body, yet their hearts beat differently. They only had one digestive system, but they had 2 stomachs. They both felt it if one of them ate anything awful. Things could go wrong if they didn't even sync their breathing. Even simple tasks were difficult during their first year. Every day, feeding was a puzzle. It wouldn't work if they didn't swallow simultaneously. To allow both of them to drink simultaneously, their mother, Patty, created a bottle with 2 nipples. Trial and error lasted for days, but it was successful. It was also difficult to fall asleep. Their parents and grandparents alternated staying up through the night because one twin might be ready to go to sleep, while the other was completely awake. Despite the exhaustion, they persisted. Then something happened that altered everything. Together, Abby and Brittany crawled when they were 8 months old. They succeeded, but it took weeks of work and a lot of tears. The entire family applauded. They ate ice cream and cake. It was like taking home a gold medal. Behind the happiness, though, their parents had to make a painful choice. Should they attempt to keep the twins apart? The physicians stated there was little possibility. One or both may not make it. One might have severe difficulties even if they did. Their parents rejected it after weeks of deliberation. Together, they thought Abby and Brittany were more powerful. The family remained steadfast despite disagreements. Early on, they began treatment, teaching the girls how to live both as 2 people and as one. On October 8, 1996, Abby and Brittany were first seen to the world on television. When they appeared on the Oprah Winfrey Show, they were 6 years old. 6 years old. The audience was in a state of shock. These girls were flourishing, not simply getting by. They discussed sleeping, eating, and even fighting. And how did they use a coin toss to resolve disputes? They were admired for their honest and composed demeanor. There were more shows after that. They even have their own television show on TLC in 2012. But they remained the same despite fame. They remained modest and secretive. One thing remained constant during all of this. They were never treated as a medical enigma by their parents. They were brought up by Patty and Mike Hensel as 2 females with a single amazing body. They provided them with autonomy, encouragement, and a solid sense of self. Abby and Brittany never thought of themselves as odd or broken as a result. Brittany and Abby Hensel were raised in a rural Minnesota town. From the outside, they appeared to be just another group of children leaving for school every morning. But in each classroom, their ability to collaborate as a team astounded both teachers and students. Abby's right arm and leg were under her control. Brittany was in charge of the left, and they moved together somehow. They were even able to write simultaneously. 1 sentence, 2 pens, and 2 hands and 2 hands. Yeah. People stopped and stared at it alone. They were already dividing up the tasks in the early years. Abby had a keen sense of science and statistics. Brittany was passionate about stories, history, and words. They therefore supported one another. One writes essays, the other solves equations. Who accomplished more was never the issue. They simply worked together on everything. However, school was more than just books. There were actual problems in gym class. Most children played, ran, and jumped mindlessly. Brittany and Abby had to consider every move. Abby would cover one side of their body when playing volleyball. The other was handled by Brittany. It required time, coordination, and countless repetitions. Nevertheless, they played. They engaged in competition. They continued to arrive up without ever requesting a different or more straightforward guideline. They accomplished a significant milestone in 2008 when they graduated from Mayer Lutheran High School. However, this was more than simply crossing a stage. The honor roll was theirs. They participated in activities. They spoke. They were respected. Getting a driver's license, something that many 16-year-olds aspired to, was one of their greatest accomplishments that year. However, the test had to be taken twice. Abby operated the radio and the pedals. Hasse. Brittany operated the lights and turned signals. They learned to steer together. Each of them was assessed independently during the test. That meant 1 automobile, 2 licenses, and 2 test results. They passed because they deserved it, not because someone made an exception. It was among the best illustrations of their ability to work together under duress. The entire audience was affected by their graduation address. They discussed remaining united, persevering, and how their education influenced their identities. The news swiftly swept outside of Minnesota. News organizations reported on it. People began tracking their journey all around the nation. Abby and Brittany attended Bethel University in Minnesota after high school. They made the decision to pursue education. They initially thought about picking several areas of focus, but the workload made it too difficult. Together, they decided on a single course. It was not a regression, it was a wise choice. When things went tough, they always knew how to adapt. One of them would take notes during university lectures, whereas the other would listen intently to the lecturer. They would then take turns. They occasionally contributed 2 distinct viewpoints to the same subject in group work, which energized class discussions. At first, it was difficult to make friends. They were unlike anyone most people had ever encountered. However, their humor and upbeat demeanor shattered the ice. They eventually rose to prominence on campus. They even joined the volleyball squad and made a special contribution. They received their degrees in education from Bethel University in 2012. The audience erupted in cheers once more as soon as they took the stage. Each of them received a diploma from the university. Despite having the same body classes and travel, they were awarded 2 degrees. A considerate 2-for-1 tuition scheme was used to pay for their education, acknowledging both their individual efforts and their common circumstance. Despite being born into the same body, Abby and Brittany Hensel were never the same person. They were obviously 2 minds, 2 voices, and 2 lives from the start. Abby loves numbers and is outspoken and self-assured. She expresses her opinions and tackles issues head-on. So, Brittany is quiet, collected, and considerate. She's the author, the one who thinks things through before acting. You can know who they are even by their attire. Abby liked vibrant hues and designs. They received dresses with 2 necklines, one for each of them, because Brittany keeps things simple and uses gentle colors. Although their bodies are one, their responses are not. When Brittany consumes caffeine, her heart races. Abby is completely emotionless. They don't argue, even though one of them may grow tired before the other while they're walking or doing anything else physically demanding. They toss a coin if they can't agree. They alternate if one wants to go right and the other left. They are experts at maintaining equilibrium. They accomplished a significant feat thanks to such equilibrium. They started teaching 5th grade in 2012. When 2 conjoined twins entered a Minnesota school and began their careers, the entire world watched. They had recently received their degrees in education from Bethel University. The school district wasn't sure how to recruit a person with 2 minds, but they were prepared. The principal needed assistance, so he called human resources. Since they were 2 different professions, they ultimately received 2 different contracts. They only received 1 salary, though. Given that they were both licensed teachers, that didn't seem fair. Brittany and Abby, though, didn't voice any complaints. They proved everyone incorrect and cared more about the children than the money. Teaching as conjoined twins took work, but within a year they were among Sunnyside Elementary's most adored teachers. The right portion of Abby's body is under her control. Brittany is in charge of the left. Every gesture, every action, and every syllable written on the chalkboard had to be executed precisely in time. They alternate speaking in class. While one teaches, the other assists students who are struggling or lagging behind. Children feel seen as a result. They experience support by experience support. One of the twins' greatest assets now is that. However, not every day was simple. It might have been unpleasant when a student in their first year asked them, "Can you even teach like this?" Rather, they transformed it into a potent lesson about respect and diversity. Their students remembered that moment. To encourage good behavior, they implemented a new point system in the classroom in 2015. The entire school noticed how nicely it worked. By 2017, pupils were expressing sentiments such as, "It's amazing, like having two teachers in one." Their influence extended beyond the classroom. A poll of students in 2018 found something incredible. Because of Abby and Brittany, the majority of children reported feeling more comfortable discussing their difficulties. They spread their message across the country in 2020. Thousands of instructors listened to them speak at a significant education conference. Their suggestions for creating an inclusive classroom have been implemented in schools across the nation. They have always been admired by their coworkers. According to one principal, the twins invigorated the entire school. Math was once thought to be dull by children. No more. It was exciting because of Abby and Brittany. Abby and Brittany Hensel collaborate in a way that seems nearly unbelievable. In one classroom, Brittany might be writing on the board while Abby explains a math issue. They then switch after a few seconds. They seamlessly switched roles 37 times during a 2023 documentary filming session. They also successfully completed a research experiment in 2024 that required precise cooperation and split-second timing. Second timing. The crowd was astounded by how well they coordinated as a team. However, this type of collaboration did not begin yesterday. When they were only 6 years old, Abby and Brittany made their public debut on the Oprah Winfrey Show. Boos. At the age of 22, they made a comeback to the public eye with their own reality show, Abby and Brittany, which debuted on TLC on August 28, 2012. The moment was ideal. The show followed their initial forays into adulthood after they had recently graduated from Bethel University in Minnesota. The 8-episode series offered viewers a glimpse inside their world. They are conjoined twins, meaning they have two heads but one body. Brittany has the left side under control, while Abby has the right. Therefore, cooperation is essential for even the most basic activities, like riding a bike or operating a vehicle. However, they made it appear simple. They demonstrated how collaboration comes naturally to people who have spent their entire lives doing it, whether they were playing volleyball, shopping with friends, or simply kidding about. Nor did they limit themselves to the local area. They were trailed across the world by the show. They drank high tea and worked on their British accents in London. In Italy, they threw coins into Rome's Trevi Fountain and sailed a gondola around Venice. These were not merely enjoyable moments. They demonstrated the twins' inquisitiveness and bravery in their exploration of the world. A significant next step was the main topic of the last program. Instead of merely assisting in a classroom, they were getting ready to become certified 5th-grade math teachers. Although it was a significant leap, they were prepared for it. It was later verified that they were hired and began teaching in Minnesota. The public was unable to quit observing. Their handling of tasks like driving, where each twin had to pass a different test, astounded viewers. The public was enabling. In addition, people pondered more profound issues like marriage, relationships, and whether or not they wanted children. However, Abby and Brittany did not discuss those subjects. Fans became even more intrigued by the mystery. The twins decided to live a more subdued life after the last episode broadcast on October 2, 2012. They largely avoided the spotlight and concentrated on their careers. Something subtly historic occurred in Minnesota on November 13, 2021. One half of the well-known conjoined twins, Abby Hensel, married. Only close friends and family attended the private ceremony. As maid of honor, her sister Brittany, who is physically identical to Abby, proudly stood by her. proudly stood by her. Army veteran and nurse Josh Bowling, 33, was dressed in a gray suit. Isabella, his 6-year-old daughter, was the flower girl who walked down the aisle. A specially designed outfit that fit their distinct shapes was worn by Abby and Brittany. Speaking from both Brittany's and Abby's hearts, Abby read the vows. There was love in the room. The wedding wasn't the only event. It was a potent representation of fortitude, solidarity, and decision. However, nobody outside of their network knew for nearly 3 years. The marriage was kept a secret until March 2024, when it was made public by public records. Many were horrified by the news, not because of the scandal, but because it brought up issues no one had ever thought to ask. How does such a marriage function? How does one go about their daily life? All of a sudden, everyone wanted to know. The mystery was increased by Josh's background. He was previously married. His ex-wife filed for divorce and a paternity suit in 2023. The headlines went crazy. People were no longer merely interested. They were excavating. Nevertheless, Abby and Josh remained firm despite the commotion. They did not flee the limelight. Rather, they provided a little glimpse into their lives. Wedding pictures posted to their combined Facebook page featured a happy, laid-back couple with family and friends. Abby was radiant. Peace caught Josh's attention. Brittany, who was constantly in the photo, appeared happy as well. It was more than romanticism. It has to do with cooperation. Long before the world realized it, their life together had already begun. It wasn't easy to become a family. They made it work even though it could never be. When they got married, Isabella was a young child, thus Abby took on the role of stepmother. Brittany wasn't just watching, she also contributed. Together, they created a predictable, patient, and caring household. Together they played games, cooked, took Isabella on field excursions, and assisted her with her schoolwork. Nothing about their lives had ever been conventional, but this arrangement wasn't either. Nevertheless, it was successful. For them, daily existence is an emotional and physical balancing act. In New Brighton, Minnesota, Abby and Brittany continue to teach arithmetic to 5th graders. Josh assists veterans in their last days as a hospice care nurse. To make everyone feel at home, their house has been modified. Boundaries, privacy, and space are all important. However, their ability to communicate effectively is what keeps things going. They schedule calm evenings at home, neighborhood fairs, family dinners, and little pleasures. They even planned evenings for dates. Abby and Brittany did not hold a press conference in March 2024 when the media frenzy struck. On TikTok, they instead shared a brief statement. "We have always existed, but the internet is very noisy now." It was all in that one statement. The video that really went viral then came. Date of posting, April 15th, 2024. The twins participated in a dance challenge. People were astounded by their coordination. 15 million people viewed it. Everything was revealed in their posts. Silent family moments, amusing dance videos, and even their life reflections. They revived their former Instagram on May 1st, 2024. In just 1 hour, their first post, a picture of them as children with the message, "New beginnings, old memories," got 500,000 likes. People were obviously still quite interested in them now that they were back. They gave everyone something more intimate 4 days later. On May 5, they posted pictures from the wedding of Abby and Josh. It was an original dress. The flowing lace fabric is tailored to fit both sisters. Brittany was Abby's bridesmaid, standing next to her. A Taylor Swift song was playing in the backdrop of a video of the outdoor ceremony. Adele's Rolling in the Deep remix served as the music for their first dance. It was strong in addition to being romantic. This side of them was adored by fans. The trio shared a family selfie on social media in September 2024. Josh, Brittany, and Abby were all grinning at the same time. Josh created it as the image for his Facebook profile. The same cozy sensation reappeared in a TikTok video on October 2. In the kitchen, the three of them were preparing pumpkin-shaped bread and giggling. That small, joyful moment was witnessed by more than 3 million individuals. However, not all attention is positive when you're in the spotlight. There were several offensive remarks spoken. It was not disregarded by the twins. They responded with a TikTok video in March 2024. "If you don't like what I do, but watch everything I'm doing, you're still a fan." This forceful voiceover was heard. It was flawless. On April 1st, a few days later, they shared another video with two-headed sculptures with the caption, "The internet is extra loud today. We have always been around." Evidence the conjoined twins are uncommon, but not new. When the well-known conjoined twins Abby and Brittany Hensel shared a humorous TikTok, the internet was ablaze with interest. A headline briefly flashed in the brief video, "Married and expecting a child." It only took one sentence. Thousands of individuals filled the comments within hours. The possibility that the twins, who are now 34, might be beginning a family excited many, while others were speculating and celebrating. The responses were heartfelt. There were hundreds more replies like that. "Congratulations. Such a blessing to be a mommy." Another person commented, "Oh, congrats, mom and dad and auntie." Support from certain supporters was even more profound. "Ladies, if you were to become parents, I would be genuinely delighted for you. You have the freedom to live your life as you see fit, regardless of the cards you are dealt." People were obviously cheering them on and not simply interested in them. Abby and Brittany had previously talked candidly about pregnancy. "Yeah, we're going to be moms," Brittany had stated bluntly back in 2012 on their TLC series, Abby and Brittany. So, she acknowledged that the dream existed even if they hadn't figured out how it would operate. Fans are now wondering if that fantasy is finally coming true over a decade later. Here's the problem, though. Nothing has been confirmed by the twins. Just that one enigmatic headline. No announcement, no statement. They have already disclosed that they only have one uterus, which adds to the intrigue. Even additional worries about how a pregnancy would proceed have been raised by that fact alone. The prospect of having a child is not the only thing that fascinates people. The difficulties in medical science involved are also fascinating. Britton's and Abby's health has always needed special attention. They have different organs, yet they share some, so doctors need to be very accurate. Compared to ordinary people, they undergo more examinations. Both their individual and common systems are monitored by a group of experts. On April 7, 2014, medical professionals made an odd discovery. Brittany's spine was growing more slowly than Abby's. That might have led to a significant imbalance. Therefore, doctors stopped Abby's spinal growth with a precise procedure. It kept their bodies in alignment and worked. Despite having a single circulatory system, they also have two hearts. This implies that their blood pressure and flow need to be closely monitored. They have stress testing and echocardiograms every 3 months to ensure everything is operating as it should. Chest pain started for Brittany in October 2018. Doctors were happy to find nothing severe after a thorough round of testing. Another region that requires careful attention is their lungs. Brittany only has one lung, but Abby has two. They perform lung function testing twice a year as a result. They were placed under severe quarantine in 2020 during the peak of the COVID-19 pandemic. They took additional care to keep their surroundings secure and clean, kept at home, and avoided interacting with strangers. All of this demonstrates how meticulously their lives must be planned and how thoroughly they are watched. If a pregnancy is genuine, it would be more than just private information. It would be a significant medical milestone, a time when all of their hopes and struggles would finally come together. The majority of individuals believe they understand what conjoined twins' lives are like. However, the majority of people's assumptions about Abby and Brittany Hensel are incorrect. They have always been noticeable from the outside. One body, two heads. How were they unable to? However, their appearance isn't what truly distinguishes them. It is their way of living and their refusal to be constrained by the outside world. Abby and Brittany have always made it plain that conjoined twins do not share the same ideas or feelings, despite what many people imagine. They are two entirely distinct individuals. They simply have a body in common. When they appeared on their own TLC reality show back in 2012, audiences were taken aback. The show showed how Brittany may be laughing with a friend about music at the same moment that Abby was discussing math with someone. One did not always laugh when the other found something amusing. One may not care whether the other becomes irritated. Their brains were not the same. All they did was share space. It was more than simply their thoughts, though. People started to doubt their feelings, their private lives, and even their prospects. They were all debatable as well. Many people believed they would never be able to fall in love, get married, or lead such a life. After then, Abby married Josh Bowling on September 3, 2021. A small ceremony, a private wedding, but for anyone who had ever questioned what was conceivable, it was a momentous occasion. Their union was more than a display of affection. A stereotype was broken. Even still, individuals continued to ask inquiries. Were they able to work? Would they be able to work in an actual workplace? Could they manage a group of kids in a classroom? Brittany and Abby did not respond verbally to the quote. They responded by being present each and every day. In 2013, they began teaching, not only turning up, but doing it in a professional manner. They were regarded by the students. Their parents had faith in them. Their coworkers looked up to them. They weren't only getting by. They were doing quite well. They were recognized as Educators of the Year in May 2019. There was no sympathy in that award. They earned it by working hard, being passionate, and having a significant influence on each and every kid they taught. They are still proving people incorrect now. They live in public every day. They cast doubt on presumptions. They serve as a reminder that being unique does not equate to inferiority. Abby and Brittany have helped people perceive conjoined twins as complex, powerful, and full of potential human beings rather than as a medical mystery through their appearances, interviews, and just being themselves. There is more to their narrative than just their triumphs. It concerns what they have constructed, a life that many believed was unattainable, a job, a marriage, and above all, a strong message. To stand, you don't need to be apart.